Welcome back to Weekly Tips for Marketing Freelancers and Agency Owners. I'm really excited for what I have to share with you today. So excited that I've decided to create it into 3 different parts because I want to make them small, digestible, and really easy to action. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to properly set up your tasks. And this may seem really arbitrary, but I've done some digging into the other content that exists on there on YouTube for ClickUp, and I find the idea of task creation to be fairly generic. And there is power in how you create your tasks so that you don't just end up with a task list like this. This is just like a brain dump of everything that needs to be done. And there's really nothing wrong with that. But if you're anything like me, this is going to just make you kind of feel a little overwhelmed, right? Like there is no real structure to which order in which I should complete these tasks. I'm just feeling generally very overwhelmed with the volume of tasks that I'm seeing in this view. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, then you're not going to use a tool like ClickUp. You're not going to really dive into and benefit from a tool like ClickUp. And that's really my goal for you, is that you get to see the benefits of feeling a sense of, right? ClickUp is supposed to make you feel relieved, not add to your anxieties. So I want to take your list, your task list, from this into this, right? So this is my project view. It gives me insight into all of the tasks I have going on, all of the projects, the bigger tasks, and the percentage of completion. Like, how cool is this? I can see very clearly percentage complete. I'm 33% done my analytics setup. I'm 50% done my KPI strategy, and I know that it needs to be done tomorrow. I've already tracked almost 2 hours, and I've estimated it's going to take me around 3. So these are the details that are really going to help us feel empowered when we come to ClickUp, right? I'm going to want to check this view all the time to check in with myself and say, okay, I'm this far along. I just have to keep going and getting those tasks done. I find it incredibly motivating, and I hope that you will too. I've also chosen to include my closed milestones or projects, just so I can see. It gives me, again, that sense of gratification of having things done, right? So if you're anything like me, you really get off on checking off tasks and seeing progress. And that's ultimately the goal here. So we want to get away from this more generic, brain dump of tasks and just assigning due dates and assignees, because this is not empowering or fun to look at. We want to get into this view where we can see everything from a high level and just know exactly what's going on and when. So how do we do that? So ultimately, this begins with differentiating between milestones and deliverables. Now, bear with me. If you're not really big into project management, this is technically a very project management-y process of task creation, but bear with me. I'm not a certified PMP, but I have found that this is incredibly helpful in structuring tasks so that they have more meaning to us, and we get to benefit from this view here of seeing the progress of things from a higher level. So milestones basically break down into 2 different categories. The first category of a milestone is particular phases of a project, right? So if we think about an SEO audit or a website build, or even what I have, for example, back here is my KPI strategy or my analytics setup. These are typically things that are one and done, right? We don't do them again and again. Once they're done, and we move on. So we use milestones to mark certain phases in our projects, right? We don't want to just create SEO audit as our one milestone, right? There probably is multiple kind of stages of completion before you actually fully complete your SEO audit, similar to a website build, right? There are phases. And so that's one use of milestones. The second use of milestones is in regard to kind of keeping an overview of completed deliverables, right? So for example, here I have offer creation, which is an offer I'm working on right now that I'm very excited to release to everybody. build your ClickUp agency in 60 minutes. I can't wait. But this isn't really a project per se, because it's something I'm going to do again and again. I'm going to create other offers. Other examples for marketing freelancers and agency owners would be like monthly content calendars or blog creations or podcasts or anything that is going to have multiple tasks within it in order to complete it. And essentially, what you're doing when you're indicating to ClickUp what a milestone is, which I'm going to show you in a minute, is telling them that this is not actually a task, right? Like offer creation, build your ClickUp agency in 60 minutes. That's not a task, right? That's like a lofty end result that we're working towards. KPI strategy is an end result. We want to come out after everything is said and done with a KPI strategy or an analytics setup. These don't have necessarily like assignees, right? These are just things that are done once all of the subtasks are done within it. So if you run a business like this, you're going to have a bit of both different types of tasks, actual project milestones and deliverable tracking milestones. But in either case, they're managed in ClickUp in the exact same way. So what I want you to do is when you create a task, obviously first be thinking about it in this way, right? What is my end result that I'm working towards? Are there phases that I can be working towards before I get to my end result, right? To break it down, make it more digestible. And when you've done that, when you create your milestone task, then what you want to do is actually tell ClickUp that it is a milestone. And what you're going to do, or how you're going to do that, there's two different ways to mark tasks as milestones. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that when you're setting up a new space, you do have to indicate to ClickUp that you want to include milestones as part of it. So that's just a little sidebar. It's not super important, but if you're in your own ClickUp setup and you're not seeing this as an option, you're going to need to go back to your space settings and actually indicate to ClickUp that you want to include milestones. So that's one little thing to look out for. So if you do have this, so this is how you would mark something as a milestone. So one way to do it is to check mark it, and then you'll see this taskbar come from the top, and right here it's set as milestone, right? So I'm going to mark as milestone. So that's way one. Way two is to actually open the task, and in the top right-hand corner, there is the task setting ellipsis, and we're going to convert it to a milestone. Right now it says unmark as milestone because it's already marked as a milestone, but you get the idea. So what this does for ClickUp, like I said, is just indicate to the tool that these are not tasks, these are milestones. And it looks different because they have this diamond shape instead of a circle. So that's the main way that you can know what is marked as a milestone and what is not. Because not every task is going to be a milestone, right? Like there are still going to be those one-off tasks that we have to do when we're managing our clients. It's not that everything needs to be a milestone. We're just trying to find a way to manage our task list so we can separate things out and kind of organize the information in a way that's more helpful to us. So once we've marked our views as milestones, then we get to utilize this filter where it says where milestone is a milestone, right? So in this view now, I'm only going to be looking at things that have been indicated are milestones, right? Because again, like we said, not everything is going to be a milestone, so it doesn't need to have a percentage completed assigned to it. It's not going to have the same management to it. You're not going to need this particular view. So the second view that we're going to look at is the actual deliverables, right? So these are the subtasks within each of these milestones, which they're all collapsed right now. So I like to have them collapsed so I don't have to see all that information in one view because it gets too cluttery, right? And we're trying to avoid feeling overwhelmed. In the deliverables view, I have subtasks set as separate tasks, right? So this is important because if you have your tasks set as expand all, that means that they have to be linked to their parent task. But if we have them set as separate tasks, then we don't have to look at them in that kind of like nested view. And it gives us this opportunity to look at things in a much more succinct task list, right? Like now we can look at what we actually need to work on. And this view is really cool because it gives us the opportunity to actually project manage things, right? This is where we're going to track our time. This is where we're going to apply our time estimates. This is where we're going to assign priorities, right? Like if we're looking at this big long laundry list of tasks, like how do we decide what to work on? We use these additional tools that ClickUp has given us, which includes priority, time estimates. Like these are the ways in which we're going to be able to better understand what we need to be working on and when, and how long it's going to take us, right? Obviously, as well, we're going to do our start dates and end dates. And what I like to do here is play with how I've grouped things, because that can be helpful as well. So if you're somebody who likes to use priorities, or if you have a bunch of tasks and you really need to use priorities as a way to tell yourself what needs to be worked on, right? If we're only accountable to ourselves, it's a lot easier to just kind of be like, I don't need to work on that. I'll just work on the things that I want to work on. But we need to work on the things that are actually the highest priority, right? So getting into this habit of marking things using these different priorities can be incredibly helpful for kind of removing that like uncertainty of what we should be working on and when. Alternatively, you can group things by status. I like to look at this as well because I use this three-tier to statuses, which is open, in progress, and closed, because I like this approach because some things don't, they're not done right away. So I like to see which ones have started being worked on as opposed to which ones haven't started being worked on. And then you obviously also have your completed. So this is your actual to-do list, right? Like these are the things that you need to be working on. And this is where you can organize yourself and your tasks using those different levers that we talked about, like priorities and due dates. So we just kind of toggle between these two different views, right? Like this is where we get to see the health of everything from a high level and feel that sense of, a sense of progress and optimism and motivation to keep going with your projects and keep them moving along. And then in our deliverables view, this is where we actually just have to like plan out and start working on stuff. Like we don't need to be thinking about what to be working on in this view. That's the whole purpose of kind of separating the two. So to recap, this is kind of what we don't want to do this. We don't want to have our tasks look like this, right? Like this is not helpful. Now, having looked at the other views, do not see how this is just like that. And then, you go to projects and it's like, wow, I can see exactly what's being worked on, the progress of it, and the due dates, like the timelines, and how much time has been attributed to it. Cool. If I'm a project manager too, I can even comment here. I've included that as well. If there's other team members and I'm like, hey, can you give me an update on this? Whatever. You can do that all in this one view, but this isn't actually where we're working. This is just where we're overseeing. And then the deliverable views, we're using tasks as separate tasks, and we're filtering out the milestones by saying milestone is not a milestone. So we're only looking at our deliverable tasks. And keeping in mind too, if we set up like main tasks, but they're not marked as milestones, they'll also show here, right? So if we have those one-off tasks, they'll show up here as well. So that is my summary of how to set up your tasks for success. Use those fields, put in time estimates, use criteria, use what am I trying to say? Use priorities. That's it. Use priorities. Make it this easier for yourself so you know what to work on, and leverage views. And actually, that's what I'm going to get into in video 2, is actually diving into the views that I've set up. And I'll even share a template for the views, the project management views that I use, because it's helpful to have those already made for you. But I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create them, how to leverage them, and I'll do that next week. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next week. Okay, until then, bye.